Have you ever hired a personal trainer? You've done all your workouts, you've done all the work, you've sweated, you've lifted heavier, you've done everything that they say that you need to do. And with a weight loss goal, you look at the scale and the scale is still not going down. It's super frustrating. I know what that feels like. I've been there. And also, as a personal trainer myself, I've worked in big box gyms, several of them throughout the years. And I can tell you from behind the scenes the reasons why you're not seeing the fat loss and the weight loss that you're promised when you sign up for personal training. In this video, I want to talk about 3 science-backed ways that you can be doing all the right things with exercise in the gym and still not lose weight. And more importantly, what you can do instead to finally get to your weight loss goals. And stick around to the end, because if you're really focused on losing fat, then I've got something for you that's gonna help you get laser focused on that goal and attain that fat loss goal. If you don't know who I am, my name is Eddie. I lost over 125 pounds. I've kept that weight off now for over 22 years. So I know a thing or two about not only losing the weight, being overweight. I was almost 300 pounds at my heaviest, but I also know how to lose the weight and also keep it off. I've encountered every single plateau and obstacle that you can imagine in losing over 125 pounds. I lost 127 pounds in total. And so in my 40s now, I'm in the best shape in my life. I lost my weight over 22 years ago. I was 19 when I lost my weight. Let's get into the first reason why, even if you're working with a personal trainer, you may not be losing weight. The first one is exercise alone is not enough. Most people already know, and you hear it all the time, that nutrition is 80-90% of it. I don't know what the exact percentage is. I don't know that anyone knows what the exact percentage is, but you can be doing all the right things at the gym. You can be working out, you can be doing CrossFit, you can be doing high intensity interval training, whatever it is, name the workout. Anything that you're doing in the workouts, that's fine, that's good, that's not a bad thing. However, what a lot of people end up doing is then they end up going and they end up saying, you know what, I had this really hard workout. I'm working out 5-6 days a week. I deserve this reward. And then they go home, or they go out with their friends, or they go out with their family and they reward themselves. And it's a lot easier than you think to gain those calories back by eating that you might have lost during your workout. So that's really the first reason. I looked up some scientific research and want to back up these claims with some science so that you guys don't just believe me, but you believe the science. So there was a meta-analysis. A meta-analysis means that they take not just 1 or 2 studies, they take a number of different studies and they look at all of the different variables of the studies and the results of that study, and they put together kind of a consensus, or basically what they can gather as a result from all of these studies combined. A meta-analysis in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, this was back in 2014, showed that diet combined with exercise leads to significantly more weight loss. Now, how much more weight loss? The group that did both exercise and watched their nutrition lost about 5.5 kilograms doing both nutrition and fitness. The people that only exercised and weren't focused on their nutrition only lost 1.5 kilograms. So that's 5.5 versus 1.5. That's a huge difference. So this is only a handful of studies, but you can already see that nutrition matters so much because, again, you can work out as hard as you want. If you're wearing an Apple Watch like I do, I wear an Apple Watch, I wear an Oura Ring, you can think about all the different wearables. If you wear a Whoop band, whatever it is that you're wearing, a Fitbit, those things are going to tell you an estimate of how many calories you burn during exercise, but studies have already shown that those estimates are way off. They overcalculate those calories by a lot. So what happens is people work out hard, they look at their thing and they say, wow, I burned 500 calories, and then now they think they can go and eat all of this food. And so what ends up happening is that they end up doing all of that progress that they made in the gym. I have other thoughts on what fitness should be, and I don't think that fitness and exercising should be the first thing that you go to when it comes to fat loss anyway and weight loss. I think that you should attack most of it through nutrition, and then you should work out just to get stronger and build muscle, but that's for a separate conversation and a separate video. Let's get into number 2, and the second reason why you may be working with a personal trainer, you may be doing a lot of great workouts and so forth, but you're not losing weight. The second reason is, most likely, depending on where you go or depending on the kind of trainer that you have, that personal trainer is so focused on their job, which is to make sure you have the right form on your exercise, to make sure that they've put together a program that has the right exercises in it, to make sure that the exercises that you're doing, you're not going to injure yourself, and all of these other different things around the actual exercise and fitness component of the equation, right? So they don't have time, and a lot of times it's not their fault, but they don't have time in a half an hour session or in a 60-minute session to go over and sit down with you and think about, hey, what does the rest of your week look like? What kind of activities do you have going on? What kind of social events do you have going on that we need to talk about? And the reason why this is so important and so underrated is because you have likely a family, or you have a life, you have job, you have things that you do in your life, you have a social life. So you're going to go out and you're going to live your life. And while the 10% in the gym is taken care of with the personal trainer, how you navigate the other 90% of your life is not taken into account most of the time. Let's go back to some research. So there was a research in obesity reviews in 2015, and this emphasizes the critical role of behavior change, habit formation, and psychological factors in long-term weight loss management. I can tell you for a fact that this is spot on because I've kept my weight off for over 22 years, and I'm not gonna lie and tell you that it's always been easy, because I feel like sometimes I'm a fat kid at heart, and up here I'm still a fat kid. But you have to change your identity, and you have to change your habits and behaviors, and you have to just adopt this new lifestyle. And sometimes that means every day reminding yourself of this new person that you are. And so it's incredibly important to make sure that you've got that other 90% that's outside of the gym, that's the rest of your life, that you have a plan and strategies around how to navigate those situations so that you won't overeat, so that you won't overdo it with alcohol or whatever other habits you have that might be sabotaging your weight loss goals. The other thing I want to discuss is sleep and stress. So sleep and stress impact fat loss far greater than most people realize. There was another study that showed that sleep deprivation can lead to a 55% reduction in fat loss. That's huge. Even when the calories are the same, this was a study back in 2010. They looked at two groups of people and they kept the calories the same that they were eating. And the people that were sleeping less, that were considered sleep deprived, and in my opinion, it's probably less than 6 hours or less than 5 hours of sleep, that group had 55% reduction in fat loss. Meaning, like, if you don't sleep, then that affects a cascade of hormones in your body, and it's going to make it so much harder for you to lose fat. What you want to do is you want to focus on realizing that fitness and health, I should say, is more of a 24/7 thing. It's not just the gym when you go for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours even. You're going to have to focus on your health and your weight loss goal throughout the entire time, throughout your life. It's going to be a new lifestyle. It's going to be new habits. It's going to be new behaviors. It's going to just be a new way of being and a new identity, like I like to say. And so you have to remember that. There's going to be things like stress hormones, like cortisol, and there's going to be things like social events and other things that come up that you need to have a strategy for. You need to understand these things. The other thing I want to point out is personal trainers mostly focus on fitness. And look, that's their job. I'm a certified personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and I have my certification, and I've worked in big gyms for the last 20 years. I've worked in several different big gyms, from lower end all the way up to the very, high-end luxury big box gyms. And I can tell you that most of the time that you're with your client, you're focused on safety, form, making sure they get stronger, making sure they're doing the right exercises. And then before you know it, your 30 minutes or your 60 minutes is up. And so you don't have time to talk about the rest of the time and the rest of their life. You can tell them, hey, try to eat healthy, try to do this, try to do that. But there just really isn't enough time to really get into the details of how to apply a strategy for them to be able to carry out through the rest of the week and through the rest of their day. So what I want to mention is, if you're focused on fitness and exercise and you've got that covered, well, in order to lose weight, you need to be wasting or using up more calories than you take in, right? You need to be eating less than you use in your exercise, walking and stuff like that. And so in order for us to figure out how we get there, we need to do a little math. We need to figure out, okay, what percentage of my calories that I expend, that I use, is coming from exercise and is coming from other things, right? And so people don't know this, but what's called exercise activity thermogenesis, that's the portion of your calories that is used up in exercise. It's EAT, and scientifically that's the term that we use to describe that. that accounts for only 5 to 10% of your total calorie expenditure. So let me repeat that again for those of you who maybe didn't catch that. If you think that you burn 2,000 calories a day, and that's, average for a male or, or so forth, then only 5 to 10% of that is coming from actual exercise. Most of it is coming from your resting metabolic rate, which is just like if you laid in bed doing nothing. Most of that energy is just to keep you alive, right? Breathing, things like that, digestion, keeping your organs, functioning correctly. All of that stuff is about 60 to 70% of your calorie of that 2,000, right? 2,000 calories. So that's the biggest portion of it. But the next biggest portion is not exercise. The next biggest portion is something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that really is described as the energy that comes from all of the other movement outside of the gym. So when you're walking around in your office, or when you're walking around in your house, when you're fidgeting, like right now I'm touching my finger and I'm doing this, and maybe if I'm tapping my foot under the table, or if I'm going like this with my hands, like any kind of movement that's not really exercise that you just kind of do naturally throughout your day, 15 to 30% of your overall calorie expenditure that day is going to be from those small movements that you don't even think about. So we're focused on working with a personal trainer, and we're focused on doing all of this work for exercise in the gym. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. If you're doing this, good job. You're farther ahead than most people are. But you have to remember point number one about the nutrition and the fact that you cannot out-train a bad diet. You have to focus on nutrition. And then number two, you have to focus on the rest of your day. You can't just go to the gym and then all of a sudden you go into an office and you sit in front of a desk or in front of a computer for 8 hours. That's what most people end up doing. They say, I got a really hard workout this morning. I did a really hard Peloton class, or I did a really hard CrossFit class. And then all of a sudden I can go to the office and I have permission to sit in front of at a desk in front of a computer for 8 hours. And that is not good, because all of that non-activity thermogenesis, that non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that NEAT that we talked about, that makes up 15 to 30%, that's the biggest one that we can manipulate. And a lot of times we're not doing enough there. So if we're not fidgeting a ton, that's why they say park far away in the parking lot and make sure, take the stairs, things like that. If you go to the supermarket, park way back in the parking lot and make sure you walk extra. If you're walking around the mall, walking around outside, going for a walk outside, that's not really considered exercise, but just kind of to get some fresh air. All of these things are considered non-exercise or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that NEAT portion. And that makes a huge portion of it. And so a lot of people don't focus on this. This is what's happening outside of the gym. You got to focus on that because it makes a huge difference. Remember, your actual exercise is only accounting for 5 to 10% of your overall calories. That is nothing. It's not to say that you don't need to be doing exercise, but your exercise should not be in terms of a focus for losing weight so much as it should be just to get stronger, just to do strength training and get stronger and build muscle. Let's get into the third reason, which is a huge one, and it's overtraining and undereating. So if you're familiar with the fact that you need to eat less in order to lose weight and you need to exercise and you need to move more, yes, that scientifically that's correct. However, people take that to the extremes and they say, all right, well, I'm going to work out like crazy. I'm going to work out 6 or 7 days a week, and then I'm going to undereat. And then what happens is your body is like a symphony, and symphonies have all of these different parts that are working in on their own, but really together. And so your hormones, your cortisol, your melatonin, how you sleep at night, all of these different things are all working together. And if any one of them gets disrupted, then it disrupts all of the other ones as well. So what happens is when you overtrain and you undereat, you're going to be chronically stressed. You're going to get stressed for a longer period of time. You may not even realize it because you think this is just part of losing weight. I need to work hard. No pain, no gain, right? I'll sleep when I die. All of that stuff that people say that have made so popular through culture. That's all BS. It's all bullshit. You have to realize that you don't want to overtrain. You don't have to train that much to lose weight. You can do strength training once or twice a week, ideally 3 times a week, and be fine. And you can hit your fat loss goals with training 1 to 3 times a week if you do a full body workout. And it shouldn't take you more than 45 minutes to an hour or so, to be honest. So if you have the right strategy, then you don't have to train 6 or 7 days a week, And look, if you like to do something every day, you should get activity. Go for a walk, do something that you enjoy. Go for a bike, go swimming, do whatever it is that you enjoy. But you don't have to feel like you have to be in the gym for an hour every single day, every single week. That's not realistic, and you're probably going to end up overtraining yourself, and you're going to end up probably in a worse place than you started, because then there's other things that happen. Things like metabolic adaptation, right? If you're under eating for too long, your body's going to say, well, we don't need that many calories, so we might as well just lower the amount of energy that it takes to run stuff in our body. And so all of a sudden, when you were running your body on 2,000 calories, now, since you're under eating so much, your body's going to say, you know what? Your metabolism is going to slow down and say, we only need to run on 1,800 calories right now, or we only need to run on 1,600 calories, whatever it is. And so the longer you stay in a deficit and the longer you undereat, it's going to make it worse, and you're more likely to have what we call metabolic adaptation, which is essentially your metabolism is slowing down, right? That's a real thing. Most people blame their metabolism as the age for slowing down. It's not really because of aging so much until you get into your 70s or 80s, and research has shown that already. However, people undereat, and when you undereat a lot, if you undereat for a long enough period of time, then your body will start to be more efficient with the calories it has, because it's not getting that many, and it's going to start to run your body on less calories. And so then what happens is, when you finally are overtrained, you're undereating, it starts to affect your stress hormones. You can't sleep at night. You're exhausted. You're frustrated. You don't know what else to do next, because you say, Eddie, I'm training hard every day. I'm under eating. I'm going below the calories I need to be eating. And all of a sudden, I'm still not losing weight. And I might even be gaining weight around my waist and around the stomach area, which is what happens. Then that's because you're having metabolic adaptation. That's because your body is chronically stressed, and you need to start to go into a different process. You need a different approach. And that's where things like reverse dieting and other stuff, some more advanced techniques and strategies come into play that we can talk about in another video. So really what you want to focus on is, you want to focus on how to train smart, not how to train hard. You want to train hard, but at some point when you have enough intensity in your training, you're training hard enough. You don't have to train harder. You just have to train smarter. You have to make sure that you understand the intensity and the number of exercises that you need to be doing and the volume. And you don't want to go too above that, because then you're going to fall into that area where you're overtraining, and it's going to be a disaster. I'm telling you, I've been there. I've done it. I used to do Shaun T Beachbody workouts, and I used to do those insanity workouts 6 days a week, because that's the schedule, is Monday through Saturday with a rest day on Sunday. And it burned me out. My hormones were all out of whack. I couldn't sleep at night. I had no energy, and I was drained throughout the day in the mornings and early afternoons. It was terrible, and I had to pull myself out of that. So I've been there. Men, if you fall into this, you can expect your testosterone to go down. You can expect yourself to feel like crap. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to have motivation to work out. You're not going to have sexual desire. Your libido is going to suffer. You're not going to even be thinking about that stuff, because you're going to just be thinking about how tired and exhausted you are. You're not going to feel like a man. You're not going to feel like yourself. You do not want to fall into that. Overtraining and undereating will get you there, guaranteed, if you do it for long enough. With that said, hiring a personal trainer is a good thing. You want to make sure that you have someone who's guiding you along the right exercises with the right safety protocols and the right intensities and all of these different things and the right programming. All of that stuff is good. But if you're the kind of person that you're sitting here and you're thinking, great, well, I need help with the other 90%. I kind of know what I'm doing in the gym, but I don't know what I'm doing with the nutrition, with the mindset, with the sleeping, with the stress management, with all of that other stuff, with how I handle social situations, with how I handle client meetings and client entertainment dinners and stuff like that. A lot of the people that I work with, that I coach, are professionals that are entertaining clients. They're executives, whether it's corporate executives or just entrepreneurs and business owners. They have to do a lot of this stuff outside of their regular day jobs where they're entertaining clients, and they need strategies for that. So I have a specific program. It's a 90-day program that'll guarantee that you lose 20 to 25 pounds. If you are interested in that, and if you're at the point where you're like, you know what, I need help with that other 90%, then click in the link below, and that'll take you to a short video where I explain to you a little more about it, and I try to convince you to book a call with me. Why? Because booking a call is the only way for me to know if I can really help you or not. If we don't sit down and talk about what your goals are and what you've tried and what's worked and what hasn't worked, then I won't know how to help you. or if I can help you. So if that's of interest to you, the link is in the description. Just click the link. Again, you'll watch a short 2 to 3 minute video, and then you'll have an opportunity to book a call if there's any calls or any spots available. And if you like this video, please like, share, do all the basic stuff. And next, I think you should see this video that talks about my 125-pound weight loss journey, or really 127-pound weight loss journey. Check that video out. It'll talk about my whole entire journey from when I was almost 300 pounds to where I am today in my early 40s, where I feel great. I'm in the best shape of my life. Check that video out next, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.